Good evening, everyone in the line. Welcome to today's TM Forum webinar regarding the TM Forum Catalyst Contribution Award. This is a contribution award related to a catalyst which is exploring the blockchain usages in the 5G rollout. And we all know 5G rollout will require a lot of investment in the infrastructures, and in this particular catalyst, they've been developing a solution utilizing the blockchain as a unique technology innovations to address this co-construction of the 5G infrastructures between the two major operators in China, with China Unicom and China Telecom. As a champion, and then we have a participant of this catalyst as well called IBM and CICT. Altogether, this catalyst team has made a substantial contributions to the TM Forum collaboration work, and they contributed the whole complete solutions developed within the catalyst as a open source code in the GitHub. And today we were going to discuss this project with the team, and we will also review the project demos as well as its contribution assets. And welcome the panelists. They also the general manager of China Unicom Data Center, the CTO from WellCloud China, as well as the project leader in this catalyst, and also solution architect and expert from the IBM joining us in today's session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Zhong from WellCloud. He's a CTO of the WellCloud, to introduce us about what actually has been done inside this catalyst, and what has been benefiting the China Unicom and the China Telecom's 5G co-creation and co-sharing scenarios. So, Mr. Zhong, I would like to hand over the floor to you.
Okay. Thank you, Senfa, for the support in the catalyst. And yes, the timing for this catalyst is very critical for the lead exploration on the 5G rollout in China. As we know, that 5G is gaining the momentum all over the world. People have been expecting for the digital leap in 5G era. Industries are also looking forward to the inventions brought by 5G. Future is promising. Everyone is excited, but not really for CSPs. The 5G network infrastructure investment is astronomical to achieve same network coverage compared with 4G network. 5G is more than 5 times base stations, and compared with 4G base station, 5G base station consumes more than 4 times power. Both CapEx and OpEx are huge. In the next few years, China needs to invest 1.6 trillion RMB to realize 5G covering nationwide. Next page, please. Let's ask a question: how to address the CapEx and OpEx challenges? Facilitating 5G network rollout by applying the collaborative economy methodology might be a solution. China Unicom and China Telecom have just launched their 5G co-building and sharing strategy last September. Based on this idea, we conceived an even big picture for telecom network collaboration. That is, utilizing innovative technology and the business model to attract investment from third party and the society, eventually accelerate the construction of 5G network. Operators are the core players of 5G, but we should also involve other potential investors to participate in the construction of 5G network, such as utilities, private investors, and even local governments. The social resources and the capital investment can further reduce the financing costs and the investment risk of operators to achieve a larger scale and the real sense of 5G network, co-building and co-sharing. Next page, please. When we take a close look at the co-building and the co-sharing strategy, we found that there are still some specific trust and efficiency issues to be addressed, such as during the network planning phase, how to raise funds in an open and transparent way. During co-building process, how to facilitate the collaboration in a trustworthy and efficient way. In network sharing, how to reach a leasing agreement rapidly and evaluate the service objectively. When the co-sharing is completed, how to get statistics and make settlement easily. So we started to seek for some technical innovation to tackle the challenges. As we all know, blockchain's core features of decentralization, transparency, and immutability are born to establish trust between peers and facilitate the collaboration with efficiency. So blockchain might be the key to address the issues above. The next page, please. In a word, our Catalyst project explores that how blockchain technology could facilitate the 5G network rollout in each business process. Based on IBM Bus, we have defined 5 function components which cover the whole procedures of infrastructure co-building and co-sharing. The first one is to introduce the capital investment in network construction. CSPs will publish their network planning on the platform so that qualified industry investors can bid the tendering resource. After financing, CSPs, together with other types of resource owners and service providers, will get involved in the infrastructure construction and maintenance. The second is resource brokering. Once the planned resources are available, they will be published on the platform. Leases can search resource through GSMAP or keyword. If the resource brokering is successful, we come to the phase of signing the lease contract. We simplify the leasing process to an application and approval interaction, which are recorded on the blockchain. In the fourth component, service monitoring and the feedback mechanism are introduced to provide the leases with a method to evaluate service quality, so that trust won't be abused. The last component is statistics and settlement. The features of blockchain make data are consistent between all the parties. Based on that, statistics and settlement views are brought in to facilitate the work of network administrators and the financial department. Okay, that's end of the project overview part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zheng. So very good, very impressive projects indeed. And we are taking these innovations to address real critical business issues. And I think that blockchain has been an important pillar in the technology side to enable this catalyst. So next, I would like to invite Joel from the IBM. He is the solution architect from IBM. And Joel, would you like to share with the audiences how actually the blockchain is benefiting on this catalyst?
Yes, sure, thanks. So if we can go to the next slide. I'm just seeing this solution overview. You guys see the blockchain intro slide? Yeah, okay, thanks very much. So we start here with a very short reminder on what is blockchain. Blockchain is a shared, replicated, and permissioned ledger. It allows to avoid point-to-point integration and communication between multiple partners within an ecosystem. So instead of having each company in this picture, for example, maintaining their own proprietary view of the data and the transaction, which is prone to errors and to disputes, all parties will share the single view of the truth through this common and shared ledger. and every update made to the ledger has to be approved by consensus, and all records are made immutable. So if we go to the next slide, we see a summary of the key concepts and benefits of the blockchain. So first, we have this notion of shared ledger, which is an append-only distributed system of record, which is shared across the business network. All participants have to get the permission to access and write to the ledger. So this is really the concept of permission. And this is done through cryptography and certificate authority. This ensures appropriate visibility and also that transactions are secured, are authenticated, and verifiable. Then the business terms of the relationships between the parties are embedded within what we call smart contracts, which are executed with each transaction. So those contracts ensure that appropriate conditions are met to record the transaction in the ledger, and also that appropriate actions will be taken. So all parties execute the same smart contract, and as I said, a consensus has to be reached for the transaction to be verified and further recorded in the ledger. So overall, this gives transparency and trust within the whole ecosystem, and the primary benefits are summarized in the slide. So first, the reduced time to execute transactions. So where it used to take several weeks or months, it can take down to minutes or even seconds. The costs and risks are also drastically reduced as every party share the same immutable view of the truth. Disputes are also reduced and easier to handle. Fraud and tampering are also decreased. And finally, the blockchain facilitates the creation of completely new business models by reducing intermediaries, reducing frictions in the transaction, and increasing trust, in particular in the domain of the sharing economy. And this is the domain of the particular catalyst. And there are also other domains that applies very well to the blockchain, like supply chains, digital identity, and also the tokenization economy. So moving to the next slide. When it comes to the context of the catalyst, blockchain can obviously bring a lot of benefits to the use cases, not only on the network co-building and sharing between service providers, but also the collaboration with third parties who are interested in 5G network investment. So some of the benefits that blockchain can bring are the following. First, it provides this immutable and auditable view of all business transactions. It embeds the business terms within the smart contracts and thus provide a high-level automation of all the business transaction and the business processes. The blockchain allows to drastically accelerate the execution of business transactions, for example, in terms of payment and settlement, dispute resolution, etc. And it also allows to manage a trustable auction process for 5G network investment. And in the future, we can further also imagine extending the role of the blockchain, for example, to provide functions like the full tokenization of 5G network infrastructure, which would facilitate investment and management even further. And also we could think about blockchain to manage all the associated documentation and then participate in the digitization of all this business process. So that's for this section, and for the next one, I will hand over to Amandeep.
Thanks, Joel. With that, I'll request to move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly give a quick overview about the underlying blockchain fabric that we have used in this project, and also how IBM has contributed to this technology. So IBM basically contributed to the overall architecture and business logic for the blockchain layer. One key point to highlight here is that IBM uses Hyperledger Fabric as the underlying blockchain technology. Hyperledger Fabric is an open source technology, and the key property that makes it a better fit for enterprise grade use cases like this is that this being a permissioned ledger, and unlike other public permission blockchain technologies. So Basically, IBM contributed to creating the business network for this catalyst, which defines all the different participants and assets being tracked, which we'll discuss more in detail in the next slide. And we hosted the solution on IBM blockchain platform, which is blockchain as a service based on Hyperledger Fabric. This can run on either public or private clouds or any Kubernetes clusters. In our particular example, we used a Kubernetes cluster running on IBM Cloud. Next slide, please. Okay. So this gives an overview of the blockchain network and the business model that is being used in this solution. So we created a 2-node or 2-peer cluster, one for each CSP. One can be a CSP1 like China Unicom, communication service provider. Another could be a CSP2 like China Telecom. And then in the business model, we define additional participants that can participate in the supply chain of these infrastructure and asset tracking. So those participants can be network equipment providers, any regulatory bodies, any infrastructure or building owners, field agents or vendors who are working on a configuration of those infrastructure assets, and also MVNOs or mobile virtual network operators. And then 2 main assets that we are managing the lifecycle of in this using this blockchain layer are infrastructure components like base stations and lease agreements that are placed between different CSPs sharing those infrastructure components. Next slide, please. So to give a quick overview of the technical architecture and the operational model, the key blockchain nodes can be seen on the bottom layer that are integrated into any traditional with any traditional systems running across different participants. For example, you can see blockchain peer nodes that are embedded with on the CSP side, resource owner side, and on the investor side. So the key takeaway from this is that how these peer nodes that run a blockchain fabric for each participant that records the transactions, and the transactions are basically creates a shared ledger across these participants, and they comes with orderer nodes and the certificate authorities, which make sure that each of these transactions are happening in a secure and each transaction is final, and orderer nodes make sure that the transactions are consistent across each participant. Next slide, please. And to quickly explain how we create transactions and define transactions in the smart contract. So this gives an overview of the transaction that we are using underneath in our smart contract. So we define transactions that manage the life cycle of different assets that we discussed earlier, transactions to create those assets and update any properties, for example, updating the ownership of the base stations, connecting the base stations to different lease agreements, and the processes that follows as we go through the process. Then we also manage the lifecycle of participants by adding new or updating properties of participants. And then we have some demo-specific transactions as well to reset certain properties to show this demonstration of this concept. The key point here is that all the transactions that happen based on the smart contract are always final. They are append only, and every transaction returns a transaction ID and timestamp to maintain the provenance of assets and participants in this process. So this concludes some technical background on the blockchain layer used in this solution and how we contributed towards that. Back to you, Ren.
Okay.
So next, I think we will have Ren Lin from WellCloud. He's project lead of this project I think he is going to share with us the interesting front end of this catalyst and how actually this interaction and how this blockchain-based infrastructure sharing and leasing and all this related settlement is handled in a UI. And this UI is also available in the GitHub, and Renning will also have a run through about it with us. Renning, floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Shengfan. This is Renning from Whale Cloud, and it's a great honor to share our contributions in this catalyst. So for better understanding, let's go through the demo first. So here is the 5G resource sharing platform, and we introduced. And now we are logging as a China Unicom, and which is a CSP user. And we also have another type of user, which is designed for the investors and the service providers. So according to the different roles, and their menus are slightly different. So in the sidebars, and you can see there are 5 main menus, and actually which correspond to the 5 use cases, and we illustrated just now. And actually in the homepage, there is a GIS-map with the marks of the resource. And actually, this page is designed for users to search the resources they need and publish the resource they would like to provide. And actually, a user could search the resource by choosing different type of resource. And they could just search by running status, or even keywords, or just click on the resource on the map. And through the details button, and you can get more information about the resources, like the basic information, the location information, some images, and even the service reviews from the licensees. And once they found the resource they need, they could initialize the resource application from here. And on the other hand, and if you have some resources to publish, and you could publish it through the button on the top right corner, like this. Yeah. And then the second page is the resource statistics. And actually, it provides the statistical views from different perspectives, like the overall situations, and it displays from the view of maybe CSPs, and from the view of by different regions, and even by the running status. And also, there's also some illustration, some pie charts shows the infrastructure sharing status, and also the trend over time. And we also provide some pie charts, and which illustrate give a summary of the fundraising situation. And then it's the application and approval. And for this part, actually, we just simplified leasing agreement to a blockchain-based resource application and approval process. There are some menus to show the leasing application received, and the application processed, and also the application this user issued. And so for the ops and maintenance part, actually it displayed the complaints reported by end users, network constructor administrators, and could verify the reports, and based on the performance index they get from network. Yeah. Then the last part is the settlement, and actually it offers accurate statistics from different dimensions, and just try to facilitate the work of the financial when they try to facilitate a financial department while they make settlement. Yeah. So this is an overview of the demo, and since we have decided to share the code so that everyone who are interested in this topic could further develop their ideas based on that. So let's move to the GitHub repository. So as you can see, there are several files here, and for the main folder, and it contains all the front-end and back-end components. And we also have license and the POM file. The license file is used for the Apache, and the POM file is used for the Maven framework. So let's take a close look at the README file. Actually, it will give you a guideline on how to use this repository. And the first part is the project introduction and some background information. And then following line is the software structure, and it explains the required runtime and also some technical selections for backend and the front end. And for the function modules, actually it shows the Fab modules in the front end code, and which is aligned with the demo we see just now. So for the backend controller and functions, and there are totally 8 classes of interfaces, and from backend actually supporting the interactions between backend and front end, also the interactions between backend and blockchain. So the first class is the byting, and which is used for resource tendering, and the code controller are designed for the interactions with end users when they are trying to make campaigns. Sometimes they will receive some verified code, and it's for that function. And the third part is the count controller, and it's used to get the resource statistics. And for the progress controller, actually is they are supporting the interactions like the leasing application and approval. And for the resource controller, it is used to initialize the information details of the resource and to make some update tasks. And for the settlement controllers, it contains the interfaces used to collect the settlement data. And for the upload and the download controller is to support some tasks like upload and download files. And the user controller is to do the user management. And then we come to the middleware. Actually, we use Nginx for front end and Tomcat for back end. And there's also an implementation guideline, and I think it's quite easy to deploy. Yeah. So due to the tight schedule, this is the end of the repository review. So I hope it's helpful for those who are interested in this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Renning. It's a very good run through the demo and also very good explanation about the repository in the GitHub. And meanwhile, I've been posting the GitHub URL also in the chat window of this webinar. So the audience who's interested, please have a look at that one. And I think the next, after we have heard all the introductions and so on, so I think I would like to take everyone into the panel session. And in the panels, the first guest I have in the panel is our Chief Architect from the TM Forum, Dave Milham. And Dave, welcome to the panel. And I would like to have a discussion with you about how did you view, because I know you are being on charge of the Open Digital Architecture reference implementation. And you've been seeing this Catalyst contribution, this code base will be a substantial piece to help this reference implementations to moving forward. So Dave, how do you think about this contribution and as a code base to be supporting the ODA implementations? Dave, if you are talking, you're on mute.
Apologies for that, talking on mute. Shengfan, thank you very much for the timely contribution. This is actually a very timely contribution to the Open Digital Architecture project in a rather critical area. It's actually also a very good example of Catalyst investigations being downstreamed into, in a very practical way, into consumption by other members for other catalysts, for their own internal use, and for some of the things that we want to do, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, our Open Digital Architecture has identified a couple of areas that we're focusing on. One is about operational efficiency improvements, which we call digital service provision. And another one is about ecosystem enablement, which we call digital service enablement. And this particular contribution is extremely important in this second area. Now, specifically, the blockchain marketplace for 5G has a number of benefits. One of it is a practical implementation. And importantly, it's actually operating within the digital service enablement area of Open Digital Architecture, and particularly providing us with a component in the marketplace area. Now, not only can this be used for 5G infrastructure as described in this presentation today, but also there are opportunities to use this in IoT service and edge service type provision, where blockchain addresses a particularly important issue about the key operational issue of accuracy of information, particularly where that is used for settlement and for billing. So far, the focus in open digital architecture has been predominantly on functional architectures, but we're now ramping up the implementation aspects. So that makes this contribution particularly timely, as it's definitely a practical way of taking some code and validating that the architectural work that we've done is appropriate and valid. As part of the ODA reference implementation program, where we're trying to run up actual reference implementations of open digital architecture, particularly those based on a concept called open digital architecture components, is now ramping up and having a practical contribution of something that allows us to describe how to orchestrate such components is particularly timely and important. We are doing this reference implementation work with the intention of running it up in an open digital lab, which actually happens to be run on IBM Bluemix as it happens. What we're hoping to do is to provide reusable capabilities for ODA components that can be used by members both for validating their own components and also for creating future catalysts that they might participate in by leveraging and reusing functionality that's been developed by other members. In particular, the proposals that we're seeing for the Open Digital Lab and Open Digital Reference implementations are principally components which provide OSS, BSS functionality, such as, for example, product ordering capabilities. But what makes this contribution particularly unique is not only is it our first completely open source proposal, but it also provides a B2B marketplace that allows us to orchestrate and provide a commercial capability over the components that other members are proposing for more traditional OSS and BSS capability. And this will be extremely valuable in future 5G related services, as described in this particular presentation, but for example, infrastructure sharing. But it'll also be important because we're seeing marketplaces as being a critical component for digital service enablement in the IoT marketplace. And for edge-based services, which we see emerging quite strongly now for those kinds of latency and throughput. And particularly see, for example, locally here in the UK, that the London Underground is starting to run up mobile service provision, and some of these infrastructure sharing issues will become quite important, and techniques and tools like these that are being presented here today will be extremely important in making these things practically and commercial realities. Thank you.
Dave, I repeat your mistake. I'm talking also in mute. So
Easily done.
all right. So yeah. Next, I just wanted to bring the champions of the Catalyst on the stage, because I think Catalyst is aiming to solving the real business challenges posed by the champions. And I would like to invite to the stage the general manager of the China Unicom data center, Ms. Wang. So, Ms. Wang, and we will have it. I would like to ask Ms. Wang. So, when we come into the innovations, and what was the original intention from the China Unicom to launch such a Catalyst in TM Forum?
Okay. You know, blockchain as an emerging technology has boomed in recent years in the tech society. In China, blockchain has been announced as the key technology to accelerating the industrial innovation as a national strategy last year. Since then, various types of blockchain applications and innovation has emerged. China Unicom has always been pioneering on new technical innovation. In the area of blockchain, we are also taking the lead. Currently, China Unicom has totally applied for 212 blockchain-related patents, ranking 6th in the world and the 2nd in China. Although the research are mattering with blockchain, the actual production applications are still limited. The original intention of China Unicom to initiate the Catalyst project is to leverage on the TM Forum's innovation platform to explore blockchain potential with global operators and vendors. Our blockchain Catalyst is already on in its second phase. In June 2019, the first phase of our project showcased in Nice, France, focused on the use of blockchain to achieve multi-party data sharing among users, operators, and external data consumers, such as internet companies, insurance companies, and so on. Blockchain is applied to the core process to authorize data sharing and record transaction certificates. The phase 1 catalyst has also been commercialized and brought great values for us, our industry partners, and our end users. TM Forum Catalyst played a good role as an incubator for telecom innovations. 2019 is the first year of 5G construction in China. The huge investment has spawned a strategic cooperation for China Unicom and China Telecom to jointly build and share 5G network infrastructure. We think this is an exciting attempt, but there are still many cooperation modes and technical details that need to be clarified in the specific implementation. We also see that blockchain technology is just right for solving the trust and the efficiency challenges in multi-party collaboration. Therefore, we launched the phase 2 blockchain-based catalyst as a starting point to explore how to utilize blockchain to realize 5G network co-building and sharing scenario. I think 5G infrastructure co-building and sharing strategy is not only meaningful in China, but also could be a good reference for 5G construction and operation worldwide. I would like to invite more operators and vendors to join our phase 3 catalyst to explore more possibilities for 5G development. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Wang. Very good. So it was really delighted to hear that our TM Forum Catalyst program has been helping the China Unicoms on this front, on the innovations, and we really are truly a open platform, and we wanted more members to be involved in this kind of collaborations. And then I was just wondering, so you mentioned that there's also some kind of early phases catalyst has been implemented into the production. So besides that one, what is the benefit of China Unicom's participation in the catalyst other than that?
Okay, there are three main aspects. Firstly, we built a successful POC with China Telecom, VeriCloud, and IBM to verify our 5G development strategy. Secondly, we received many useful feedbacks during the exhibition in Kuala Lumpur. For example, how to ensure the authenticity of blockchain raw data. And also, we have received many suggestions for new scenarios. These feedbacks allow us to continuously expand our thinking. In the future, we will continue to optimize our solution. The last but not the least, the 5G infrastructure co-building and sharing between China Unicom and China Telecom would involve a lot of cross-companies and cross-industries cooperation. It's really a big challenge, both in business model and technologies. Through TM Forum Catalyst project, we met many potential stakeholders and also conducted in-depth discussion with them. This Catalyst project triggered a butterfly effect, full of expectation and possibilities. It will be the starting point for our huge 5G collaboration. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. So we've been discussing about these third phases of this catalyst. And can I ask you, so what is China Unicom's plan for this catalyst in the future on the phase 3? And can you let us, the audience know, so what is ambition also for the China Unicom in the blockchain areas?
Okay. Blockchain-based 5G co-building and sharing is currently in its infancy. In the next phase, we will continue to explore from two aspects. First, to consider whether new user cases or scenarios shall be added to the process. For example, utilizing blockchain for SFA and slice management. Secondly, we are also considering whether we can further optimize these key scenarios. For example, further refinement in the process of multi-party information sharing, data statistics, and reconciliation. For the China Unicom, the ambition in the blockchain areas, we think, in addition to using blockchain to facilitate 5G infrastructure co-building and sharing, we also applied blockchain in data monetization. We believe that data monetization and data-driven operation will become the keystone in the 5G area. Therefore, together with WearCloud, China Unicom builds a data sharing platform to explore the data value with industries. Data sharing platform is based on blockchain technology, which is designed to help share and trade data with enterprise customers. Data sharing and trading will be used to improve digital services for customers or to monetize data. By leveraging blockchain, China Unicom data sharing platform aims to address concerns about data sovereignty, security, and transparency, which currently act as the barriers to data sharing. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Ms. Wang. It's very, very good that the Catalyst program has been able to bring the values to the champions. And next, I would like to turn back to the Catalyst participants. So the first I would brought into the stage is the WearCloud, Mr. Zhong. So welcome back to the stage again. And I know this Catalyst has been a very successful also in the view from the WearCloud. And I know by fact that in February, there's actually planned some kind of sessions related to this Catalyst was planned in MWC, but unfortunately due to the current condition of the COVID-19, that was the whole event was cancelled. But nevertheless, we are now here on the stage and sharing this experience to everyone. So I would like to ask from Ms. Zhong from WearCloud. So what has been the benefit? Can you summarize from this Catalyst as a participant here?
Okay. Yeah. We believe 5G computing and co-sharing will be a trend for 5G development both in China and worldwide. Therefore, we work closely with our champions on this Catalyst, and we are very pleased to be recognized by TM Forum with the Best Contribution Award. 5G network building and sharing is moved from hype to reality. In this Catalyst, we have built close partner with our customers, China Unicom and China Telecom. We have not only got rich industry experience, but also expand our product scope. We have learned the current pain points from CSPs. This would help us better understand the 5G network building and sharing business. Moreover, this project also has a lot of positive feedback from our global operator customers. For example, in the Asian and the European markets, especially for many small operators, they are more interested to 5G network building strategy and eager to build new business models to promote their 5G development. After our project exhibition in KL event, many of our customers actively contacted us to express their interest in the relevant solution. And we also organized some follow-up communication to see how we can cooperate together. Okay, thank you.
Oh, very good, very good. So I think that was a clear benefit that we've been able to helping our members being able to promote the solutions in new technology innovations. So as a commercial company, as a vendor in this telco society, and the product itself, the code, especially the code base itself, is a most important asset of our members. So next question is coming to Ms. Zhong is what motivated and why did WellCloud and IBM decided to contribute the code base on this project to the Team Forum collaboration project? What's the motivation behind that one?
Okay, I think first of all, the nature of network building and the blockchain is multi-parties collaboration. Therefore, it's not enough for just one operator or one window to make this project really come to work. Only by introducing more people to join and understand the idea, we can make it much more influential and become real. Secondly, this solution is not mature enough. It needs more input and innovation to make it enriched, detailed, and suitable for commercialization. We share the deliverables to attract more vendors and experts who have interest to further develop on the existing work and make it as an open source ecosystem. The last but not the least, we also see that TM Forum is gradually incorporating blockchain-related solutions into process assets to develop their ecosystem and tools. Therefore, we are willing to take this opportunity to contribute the output of the catalyst to the collaborative project, enrich the application technology of the blockchain in the telecom industry, and hopefully can create certain influence. WellCloud also plans to participate in the second phase of the business operating system catalyst, together with Vodafone, Orange, Telenor, and China Unicom. We will use our related user stories as reference implementations of the B2B marketplace of TM Forum ODA. Let's wait and see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zhang. Very good. So I think that we've been really building the core momentums on this innovation front. And thank you very much to trust the TM Forums and our communities that we have the powers to push these blockchain implementations in the telco space even further with the shared code and contributions to this collaboration project. So next, I would like to really bring the IBM to the stage. So the questions to the IBM, I would like to ask Joel. So what has been the motivation and benefit for IBM in this case? Do you see the same side of the story as WellCloud?
Yes, thanks. So when we talk about blockchain, IBM is one of the global leaders in the blockchain technology. We have delivered more than hundreds of business networks that are already in production. So we've built a strong expertise over the last 4 to 5 years. And amongst those networks that are in production, we have delivered already a number of projects in the telecom and media industry. For example, around roaming and settlement, user consent management, or advertising supply chain. So when we discussed the opportunity for IBM to participate in this catalyst, it has been an evidence that it would be a great use case to work on. We've seen that blockchain can bring a lot of value in this 5G infrastructure ecosystem, and we discussed that earlier today. So for us, collaboration with partners is very important, of course, and we've been delighted to work with such a great team, China Unicom, China Telecom, WellCloud, and of course the Telemanagement Forum, who is a key actor in this area. So thank you all for this collaboration. We have learned a lot during this co-creation, and of course we are eager to bring this asset further and continue working on this topic with our partners and our clients. And of course, winning the Best Contribution Award has been the cherry on the cake for us for working on this catalyst. This domain of 5G infrastructure sharing is still nascent in the industry, but we've been able to leverage our expertise and experience that we acquired in some previous engagements in order to build this solution and to quickly design and implement blockchain smart contracts that we've seen earlier, which govern the business transaction between the various parties in the ecosystem. And finally, contributing code to the TMF is also something very important for us. IBM considers the open source to be of paramount importance, particularly with our recent acquisition of Red Hat. So building an ecosystem of partners to explore this domain further is for us a necessity.
Thank you, Joel. That's very good. So I think that we're all sharing from the same side, same kind of feelings within the team. So I just wanted to see, like, how do you see the domain of infrastructure sharing evolve in the future? Because you've been the key blockchain providers in the society, in the community. So how do you see that one?
I'll take that question, Shengfan. This is Amandeep. So
thank you.
The topic of infrastructure sharing has been interest in legacy and existing technologies as well. I remember participating in similar discussions at last year MWC as well, where operators were discussing pain points around how it's difficult to manage or track utilization of network resources and infrastructure resources, and changes being made when it's being shared between multiple operators. But it's becoming more and more important with technology like 5G. And especially with the Catalyst success, we are seeing a lot more interest in our clients. So 5G has certain properties like dependency on millimeter wave, more smaller base stations, which is increasing the amount of investment that is required in infrastructure. That it's a big motivation for telco operators that they are now very interested in any technology or solution that can help reduce that cost and also bring more trust and security in this ecosystem, where now they are trying to partner together with other operators to share the infrastructure. In fact, many 5G infrastructure sharing agreements are already in place around the world. For example, Vodafone announced last year around July timeframe that they will be launching their own tower company, and they're also engaging into infrastructure sharing agreements with operators across Italy, Spain, and UK. Orange also made a similar announcement that they'll be splitting their tower business and engaging in infrastructure sharing across Europe. And then Deutsche Telekom has an existing tower company that goes by the name DFMG that has been in existence since 2002, I think. So, I mean, and they are, this is only increasing the number of participants in this ecosystem of infrastructure sharing that creates a good opportunity for technology, or DLT technology like blockchain, that can help manage this complex business relationship between the operators. That being said, this Catalyst, I think, did a great job in addressing that part of the problem, and how blockchain, to demonstrate how blockchain is a good fit in technology terms for use case like this. And it can be further enhanced with combining the advantages of blockchain as a technology with other technologies like artificial intelligence, cloud native technologies, which I can think of good important examples. So another thing is to address the specific domain on infrastructure sharing in 5G. Also creates a need of integrating with existing systems like ERP, any building management applications. If I can give an example of an in-house tool that we use in IBM called IBM Triga, which is a real estate or facility management software. So with APIs, this technology can easily be integrated with those existing systems that the operators might be using to manage their infrastructure in form of databases or just inventory management.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. So I think maybe let me, time is running, so let me ask the final question. So how does this now this strategy is fitting with IBM's strategy in the 5G?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So of course, this solution and the use cases we talked about are a very good complement to the IBM strategy in 5G, which consists in helping service providers to build and manage their 5G network and also the edge computing infrastructure through our orchestration and network management capabilities. So before building the network itself, of course, you need to build the infrastructure. So managing this 5G infrastructure building is really the foundational layer for service providers to further build the network and the IT workload that will run in the 5G application. So it's a really great component a great complement to our strategy in 5G.
Thank you, John. I think that will be bring to the end of this webinar session. So may I ask the host, Elish online, so do we get any questions from the audience online, or maybe we can open the line for Q&As if there's any?
We don't have any questions at the moment, Sheng-Fan.
Yeah. So for the audiences in the session, do you have something to ask?
So Mandeep Rawal has raised his hand. Maybe if I unmute you, you can ask a question if you have it. Mandeep,
Yeah, sure.
do you have a question?
Yeah. Thanks everyone for such a great session. While 5G and B2B scenarios have been discussed at length and appreciate that, maybe in near foreseeable future, any B2C revenue paying customer scenario, any use cases possibly happening in next couple of months for B2C revenue paying customers? And just in case, if not, then any B2C use case within a organization like a large integrated telecom operator?
Mandeep, so with this question towards the blockchain application using in B2B blockchain. So
blockchain.
Yeah, I can take that one. Yes, there are some B2C applications blockchain. I'm thinking, for example, the domain of digital identity, which is a domain where service providers can provide services to either citizens or consumers. Also, the digital wallet or digital payments and things like that. We are working already heavily on those domains, and for some of those with service providers. So it's not, it doesn't require 5G, but it's some kind of consumer services, B2C services that we can deal with blockchain. If that answers the question.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I can add another two use cases actually from the China Unicom. They already have some practice, and such as the data sharing, and when we need to share some privacy data and externally, maybe between three parties like the data owner and the CSP and some external companies, and they use blockchain to make this kind of authorization and authentication. And this is the one scenario. Another one is like sometimes we have some second-hand SIM card, and when we just stop using it, and it will get back to the circulation again. And so we use blockchain and to just there will be members like the CSP and some internet companies and end users, and so that when the end user change the SIM card, and they could use the blockchain platform and to notify some internet companies to change their identity and try to cancel the bonding between the SIM card number and also their account. There's this kind of practice from China Unicom, and yeah, we are trying to have our champion also to do this kind of practice. Yeah.
And adding to that, to the example that Ren and Joel provided, I think one of the capabilities that 5G can enable for consumers in near future is based on the capabilities of 5G slicing, that 5G technology can enable operators to provide dedicated added services for example, certain applications like gaming or certain mission critical applications for customers. And if it's powered by a technology like DLT technology like blockchain, you can better manage the billing of those offerings. and the utilizations of those 5G slices for consumers, just as an example. And this is also one of the use cases that we are working on. I meant IBM.
Thank you, Eman. So I think that the question is under info, and we are running really on top of our hour. And I think if there's more questions, maybe we can direct this in the offline sessions. And this webinar will be is already recorded and will be available for you on demand later on. And I think the panel today will be more than happy to answer additional questions if it's coming through online. So I think I'm now trying to close up this session. So I think as we've been discussing, so the COVID-19 is really the pressing crisis now worldwide, and I think in the end of the session, I would like to call this crisis when we are in this tech society, in the telecommunication society, in certain this kind of crisis, we need to be act professionally to address the challenges posed by such kind of crisis, and we need to take this crisis as an opportunity to accelerate the needed innovations that we needed to enable the consumers and normal people's life in to support their life better. And I've been seeing many different catalyst proposals in this digital transformation world in Copenhagen. There's proposals related to that one. So I think we are going to the right directions, and I really hope the Team Forum Catalyst will be the platform for us to do the innovations and to make us a better place here. And thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.